The billionaire was shocked in the mall when a young boy pointed to his exclusive penthouse and said, "That's where I was born." Can you imagine the secrets hidden in that moment? Stay with Dark Voices to uncover this incredible tale. The warm afternoon light shone on the clean, shiny floor of a luxurious mall in New York City. A young boy, about 6 years old, stood in front of a large glass window on the third floor. He was looking out at the building across the street, a towering condominium with a famous penthouse owned by billionaire Alexander Vanderbilt. The boy was quiet, holding an old toy in his hand, while his mother was busy watching the events in the mall, unaware that she wasn't holding her child. In an unexpected moment, the boy raised his hand and pointed to the highest floor of the building. "That's where I was born," he whispered. What could this child possibly know about a billionaire's private world? Keep listening to Dark Voices, because this story will leave you speechless. Alexander couldn't believe what he heard. Unaware that the simple words of a child would change the course of his entire life. Alexander's gaze was fixed on the boy, he could hardly breathe. "What did you say?" he asked, almost in a whisper, but the boy was serious, still staring at the penthouse. "That's where I was born," he said. "My mom told me." Alexander's hands grew cold. Only a few people knew what the inside of his penthouse looked like, including the woman he once loved, who mysteriously disappeared several years ago. He stepped back a little, his voice trembling. "What do you know about that room?" "Hello, it's Mr. Hope from Dark Voices again. Stay with me, and I promise you will be delighted, thrilled, and inspired. Enjoy." In the tallest building in the center of Manhattan, above the glass and steel reflecting the sun, was the office of Vanderbilt International Holdings. In the innermost part of the office was the man known as one of the youngest billionaires in the country, Alexander Vanderbilt. Alexander stood tall, his hair always neat, every movement refined. He wore a black tailored suit made in Italy, custom-made shoes, and a watch owned by only a few select people in the world. But behind his elegant appearance, the coldness in his eyes couldn't be denied, a distance that no smile could break. It seemed like he didn't know how to laugh anymore. Many envied Alexander's life, wealthy, powerful, with a bright future. But if they looked deeper, they would see a man captive to obligations, not his own desires. Alexander was currently at a press conference with his fiancée, Victoria Hayes, a socialite with Australian blood, known on social media as a fashion icon and often featured in glossy magazines. Victoria was beautiful, always smiling, and accustomed to facing cameras. But in Alexander's eyes, she was just a stranger forced upon him by fate. "Alexander, how does it feel to be engaged to the most beautiful woman in New York?" asked a reporter as cameras flashed. Victoria smiled and tightly held the man's arm. Alexander forced a smile, his tone off. "It's good for the families. Our companies will benefit greatly." The surroundings were quiet. Victoria glanced and slightly frowned, but quickly recovered. She was used to not getting Alexander's full attention. After the press conference, an old man approached Alexander, his grandfather, William Vanderbilt, a former business tycoon, now ill and in a wheelchair. He was the reason Alexander needed to marry Victoria. "Continue this, grandson," his voice was weak but firm. "I want to see you tied to a woman worthy of our name and have a child before I pass away. Continue the lineage." Alexander remained silent. No answer, no objection. He knew that no matter what he said, he wouldn't win against this old man, because deep down, he owed him everything he enjoyed, the power, the name, the life he had now. But while he was still with Victoria, he couldn't help but ask himself, is this really what I want? Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, in an unknown part of a bustling mall, Emily Thompson was busy selling French fries at the food court. She wore a red apron and a simple headband. Her face was light, and her smile seemed endless, even if sweaty, even if the place was crowded, even if orders came one after another. "Large fries with cheese," she asked the customer while quickly wiping away the hot oil drops with her hand. "Wow, you're so nice, miss," said the child who bought. "Your smile is beautiful." Emily laughed. "Thanks, kid." "Oh, you're young, but you already know how to flatter. Just come back next time on Sunday." Behind every smile of Emily was a strong desire to live honorably. Though poor, she was happy with every dollar she earned. She knew she wasn't meant for a luxurious life like those she saw on TV. But for her mother and sibling, she was willing to endure everything. After her shift, she held her paycheck envelope, not much, but enough for her to often bring home treats. She bought her mother's favorite bread and a burger for Olivia, her youngest sibling. Upon arriving at the small rented house on the edge of the tracks, she was immediately greeted by Olivia's voice from inside. "Sis, maybe we can buy a new cell phone now. This one I'm using is so slow. I can hardly keep up with our modules. Even the class group chat, I'm always late in replying." Emily smiled while handing the burger. "Okay, little one. Don't worry. Sis will get paid again at the end of the month. Let's skip the milk tea for now. Let's just buy your cell phone first. You needed more." "Thanks, sis. Promise I'll be valedictorian." While eating, their mother, Margaret, came out from the room carrying a bucket of laundry. Her walk was slow, and it was obvious she was struggling to move. Her feet were swollen, and fatigue was evident on her face. "Oh, child, can't you just make do with that cell phone you have?" interjected Margaret. "Poor your sister. She's already drowning in debt from working, and now you'll buy a new gadget." Emily approached and placed the bread she was holding on the table. "It's okay, Mom. The little one will use it for school. Besides, Olivia is smart. She's diligent in studying. I'd rather help her than buy shoes for myself." Margaret was quiet. She patted the shoulder of her eldest child. "Emily, child, my foot hurts again." Emily looked at her mother and immediately knelt beside her. "Mom, has it been hurting since earlier? It seems the swelling is getting bigger. Why can't you walk it off?" "Oh, never mind. Just leave it. It's nothing. I'll have it massaged tomorrow by the neighbor," answered the old woman while covering her foot wrapped in socks. "We shouldn't ignore it. Diabetes isn't a joke. I'll try to find a side job this week. We can have a checkup, too, Mom. Don't worry. Even if I sell at night, we can handle this. No need, child. It's just an expense. We're old now. It's more important that your sibling finishes school." But in Emily's eyes, she couldn't let her mother's condition worsen. They had no father. He left them without explanation. Since then, Emily became the family's pillar. And now, even if tired and struggling, she would never let go. That night, while Olivia lay on the mat and Margaret leaned against the old wall, Emily went outside the house and looked up at the sky. The light from the surrounding houses was dim, and some stars seemed to plead not to lose hope. She prayed silently. "Lord, help us. Even if it's hard, I hope I can handle it. Give me strength for Mom and for Olivia. Even if I'm the one who suffers, as long as they're safe." In her heart, she felt the weight of responsibilities. But in her eyes, there was still light, hope, faith, and a dream that one day, even just one day, she could experience ease. And that night, while a young vendor quietly dreamed under a leaky roof, a billionaire was completely enveloped in the darkness of his heart, not knowing where to find the true meaning of life. In worlds so different, they didn't know yet their paths would collide. It was morning again. In front of the huge mirror in his room at the top of the penthouse, Alexander stared at his own reflection while putting on his expensive watch. No change in his face, serious, cold, as if always thinking. Just a signal from the housekeeper, and the double doors of his walk-in closet were opened. Various suits were presented to him, all made from fabrics that ordinary people couldn't buy even in a whole year of work. While adjusting his coat, there was a knock on the room door. "Sir Alexander, Miss Victoria is arriving. You have a meeting with the wedding planner." He closed his eyes briefly. Another day of pretending. Another day of accepting a fate he didn't choose. On the other side of the city, Emily's day began. She was woken by the old alarm clock beside her cot, accompanied by loud horns from the street full of traffic. She got up immediately, scratched her head, and stood to prepare breakfast for Margaret and Olivia. "You're awake now. You can't skip breakfast," she said while waiting for the water to boil on the small stove. When done, she hurried to work, wearing the red uniform of the food court and carrying an old backpack with bread, a hard-boiled egg, extra clothes, and a wallet full of coins. In the wedding planner's office in Brooklyn, there were Alexander and Victoria with their personal assistants, PR managers, and family. The room was full of mood boards, flower sample arrangements, and fabrics for gowns and suits. "I think we should go with a garden wedding." "Italy, perhaps," suggested Victoria, while gesturing and looking at designs on the tablet. Alexander was silent. He didn't care where the wedding would be held. In his eyes, it was all the same, crowded, showy, and full of press coverage. His assistant tapped his shoulder. "The US is okay, dear. So we're close to the Americans." "Sir, this is being called the wedding of the century. All eyes will be on you." Victoria smiled while squeezing his hand under the table. "We are going to be the most powerful couple in the country." But behind the camera lights, plastic smiles, and empty congratulations, Alexander's heart was gradually distancing itself from this idea. This wasn't what he wanted, but as a Vanderbilt, he had no choice. Meanwhile, at the food court, Emily was busy taking orders. "1 large fries, cheese flavor with extra ketchup." "Just a moment. It's still hot." She was sweating, but her smile didn't fade. She knew one day of effort was another step for their family's future. But not all customers were easy to talk to. "Why does this seem burnt?" "Don't you know how to cook?" complained a man in corporate attire while pointing to the fries on the tray. "Oh, sir, I'll replace it right away." "Sorry," Emily said quickly while trying not to react to the rude tone of the man. Though tired, she couldn't lose patience. She knew she couldn't lose her job. It was an honor for her, and more than that, it was their only source of livelihood. When she got home that night, she found Margaret sitting on the bench, quietly stroking her swollen foot. Emily couldn't speak immediately. Her eyes widened when she saw the lump with cracked skin, and it seemed there was sticky liquid. "Mom, this is serious. There's a wound now. We can't just have it massaged. We need to take it to the hospital." But instead of answering, Margaret slightly bowed her head, obviously embarrassed and not wanting to be a burden. "Sis," soft voice of Olivia, who approached them. "Let's just pawn this cell phone. Maybe we can get some money for medicine." Emily looked at the cell phone Olivia was holding. She bought it just a few weeks ago using almost half her salary so her sibling could keep up with online modules and classes. She couldn't sacrifice her sibling's dream. "No, Olivia. Sis will handle it." "Okay, don't think about that." Olivia nodded, even if not fully convinced. She felt the weight of the world on her sister's shoulders, but she couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. The next day, back at work, while Emily was arranging fries at the counter, a woman in a tight dress, heels, and an expensive handbag approached her. "Emily?" She turned. It seemed like a few years flashed back in her memory. There was something familiar about the woman's face. "Wait, Sarah?" "Yes." "Wow, it's you." The woman approached and hugged her. "It's been so long. High school was the last time before you dropped out." "Oh, wow, Sarah. You're so beautiful now." "So poised," said Emily and smiled despite the surprise. "Well, lucky in work, you know." She winked while raising her expensive watch. "What job do you have? Maybe you can get me in. I really need a side job now. Mom needs a checkup, but we have no money to pay." Sarah was silent for a moment and looked her up and down, a smile on her lips, but with meaning behind it. "You know, you're really pretty." "Are you sure? Do you really want a job?" "Yes, of course." "Why? What kind of job is that? Maybe I'll get lucky." Sarah approached and slightly bent down. "Do you know how to dance?" "Huh? What dance?" Emily asked, confused. "Hip-hop, silly, not just swaying. You know, the kind that makes all men look at you." Emily frowned. "I don't like that." "What is that?" But Sarah smiled and showed her things: designer bag, expensive cell phone, gold jewelry. Oh, that, will you still refuse? Do you need it? Is it safe? Asked Emily with hesitation. Yes, of course. We have a group. It's legal as long as you're confident. Here, my number. Call me if you change your mind. Don't worry, this job is safe. Sarah handed a calling card, and before Emily could ask, she waved and walked away. Emily was left holding the small paper, silent, staring at the number. In her mind, the image of her mother returned with a wound on her foot, her siblings striving in studies, and her own situation. She swallowed. Excuse me, suddenly shouted a customer. Are there still fries, or will I melt here in line? Emily was startled. She quickly hid the card in her pocket and rushed back in front of the fryer, back to reality in the world she had to face. But in her mind, a question began to knock: how far could a child sacrifice for her family? The lights in the Vanderbilt mansion sparkled like stars that descended from the sky to give light to an occasion prepared for months. In front of the grand door made of shiny wood with carved gold details, lined up were expensive cars, all high-class vehicles like from abroad, one purpose: to bring the blue-blooded guests to a night of flaunting wealth, power, and influence. This was the dinner party of the Vanderbilt family and Hayes family, a few weeks before the wedding dubbed to unite the two richest clans in the country. Inside the mansion, every corner was like a palace in Europe, from the marble floor shining under the chandeliers to the paintings by famous European artists. In the middle of the large dining hall, a table longer than a limousine was filled with crystal glasses, silverware that gleamed in the slightest light, and foods whose names ordinary people couldn't pronounce. Seated at the far end was Alexander, silent, staring at the wine glass he was swirling. To his right was his fiancée, Victoria, smiling at the guests while winking at the aunts and uncles, eager for their union. After the wedding, we're expecting babies right away, right? Said one of Alexander's aunts while adjusting her pearl necklace. I'll just finish my modeling gigs then. Yes, I can carry a baby, answered Victoria while sipping her sparkling wine, as if the topic wasn't heavy. Some at the table laughed, but others quickly chimed in. You don't need to do modeling gigs anymore, sweetie, said another aunt from the Vanderbilts. You'll be a Vanderbilt after the wedding. You'll be one of the most powerful women in the country. All you have to do is to be a wife to Alexander and a mother to your future children. Oh, I would love to have many little ones running around here in the mansion, added another, while thinking of the increase in heirs of the two dynasties being joined. Victoria just laughed and nodded, used to such conversations. For her, it was just part of the world she moved in. But Alexander remained silent, noticed by his father. Cut the act of coldness, Alexander, he said, low voice, but heavy in every word. You can't be like that. Every time we watch press conferences and read articles, you're always cold and uninterested. It's bad for the family image. Fix yourself. Alexander looked into his father's eyes. He didn't answer. Deep down, he wanted to shout, stand up, and run away completely. But he couldn't. He was a prisoner of his own surname. While walking away from the dining room, Victoria passed by a conversation of some young men, Alexander's friends. So, you're organizing the bachelor party? Asked one. Casual, but meaningful, answered one with a tattoo on his neck, known owner of several famous nightclubs. But be careful. There might be media again. We don't want new controversy. Oh, you know Alexander's gang always bringing trouble, added another with laughter. Just make sure everything is fine. William doesn't want scandal before the wedding, said a PR handler at the table. But Alexander didn't care that he didn't like the party. For him, it was just a show in the long list of occasions he didn't want to join. On the other side of the city, in a hospital for the poor, Emily sat quietly on the bench, waiting for the doctor to finish examining Margaret. The air in the hallway was cold, and the hospital obviously lacked facilities. Emily's hands were shaking while holding the envelope of her small savings that had almost nothing left. Miss Thompson, call of the doctor. We need to continue the treatment for your mother. There's a complication in the foot. If not addressed, it could lead to infection that spreads to the body. How much will it cost? Doc? She asked with a crack in her voice. The doctor listed on paper and handed it to her. Emily slowly read the numbers. It seemed like her world stopped. We can't afford it, child, softly said Margaret while trying to smile despite the pain. If not, then not. On the way home, no words on the bus. While Emily hugged her old shoulder bag, she secretly opened it and took her wallet. She counted the remaining money, a few dollars, and then a small thing fell. Sarah's calling card. She stared at it for a long time, just staring at the paper. When they got home, she still held the calling card. While in the distance, she saw her mother with eyes closed, tired from walking home, and Olivia almost asleep from fatigue. She quietly took the old cell phone, and as her finger touched the keypad, something heavy weighed on her chest, but she called the number anyway. Hello, who's this? Answered the voice on the other line. Sarah, she said softly. Oh, Emily, it's you. Oh, what? You're agreeing? Emily looked at her mother lying on the mat and Olivia tightly hugging her old backpack used as a pillow. She nodded silently, even though Sarah couldn't see her. Yes, she said softly. Good, happy answer from Sarah. Oh, I'll text you the address tomorrow. Let's meet around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll fix you up first. We'll wear the clothes. Trust me, it suits you perfectly. Just be confident, okay? Don't be nervous. It's legal. It's safe. You have company. Emily didn't answer. She just nodded and nodded, still holding the cell phone. In front of her, there was her mother who needed treatment. Beside her, there was her sibling dreaming of finishing school, and in her palm, the decision that could change their lives. She quietly knelt at the edge of the mat. No words came out of her mouth, but inside her, a prayer was gradually forming. Lord, watch over me. With every step of Emily, the nervousness, she was wearing a simple blouse and jeans, carrying an old sling bag with shoes recommended by Sarah. She stopped in front of a large house, like a mansion that had aged but still had a stately presence. The gate was big, black, and with lights twinkling from inside. Even from outside, Emily felt it wasn't an ordinary home. She entered carefully, followed the direction of the gatekeeper after showing the text from Sarah. When the door opened, she was immediately greeted by bright lights, loud music, and laughter of women. She entered a living room wider than their whole house. On the sofas, women were seated, dressed up, colorful makeup, tight clothes like goddesses in front of Emily's ordinary view. Sarah noticed her immediately. Emily, called Sarah, seated on a velvet armchair, wearing a red mini dress and holding a wine glass. Oh, come, girls. This is my high school friend, new recruit. Fresh as fresh. Emily blushed. She didn't know how to greet those there. She felt she didn't belong in this world. But Sarah patted her shoulder. Relax. What you'll do is simple. You'll just dance, then entertain the men. Smile. Smile. Like that. Entertained, repeated Emily with a hint of nervousness in her voice. Hey, don't be nervous, interjected Sarah. There are many of us there. Jessica is here, too. Then a woman taller than Emily approached, tan, short hair, and wearing a black dress that was very skimpy. Hi, I'm Jessica. First time, she said while scanning Emily from head to toe. Emily nodded. Newbie, huh? You need to be good. Can't be all demure, with laughter from Jessica. Sarah pointed to some women in the corner. Oh, there. Those were dancing in the club just yesterday. Guess what? They made 20,000. One night only with tips. Emily looked at those pointed out. One of them was holding an envelope with thick contents. She swallowed. Her chest grew heavier. Sarah, she said softly. I think I can't do it. What, are you a virgin? Whispered Sarah in her ear. Emily bowed and gently nodded, shy to admit. Sarah smiled. No problem with that. They won't touch you if you don't want. Just dance like that. Especially now, our clients are rich bachelors. They just want to have fun before one of them gets married. Huh? What will we do? Asked Emily, though she knew the answer. We're going to the stag party of a rich billionaire, answered Sarah, and went, like, a bit wild, but we'll handle it. We'll take care if you don't want. Just dance. And without further ado, they started on her, removed her simple clothes, replaced with a red velvet dress with a low neckline, makeup done, hair fixed, and given heels with height. In the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. For Mom. For Olivia. I can do this, she whispered to herself while stopping the shaking of her knees. Meanwhile, in a famous hotel in Manhattan, noisy and fragrant, was an entire floor exclusive for Alexander's stag party, organized by his friends, sons of politicians, club owners, and businessmen owning car showrooms, all known for being drinkers and womanizers. Bro, shout of Dominic, Alexander's friend. You're getting married? Wow, I can't imagine myself settling down. Same. But you're the lucky one, bro. A socialite jackpot, with laughter from another man while drinking expensive tequila. Expensive liquor filled the table, steak, sushi, caviar, and desserts not seen in ordinary occasions. Some held cigarettes, others chatted with escorts there. Alexander, tonight, no more thinking. Okay, just fun, said Dominic, while pouring him a drink. Alexander forced a smile. He sat in a corner and held his forehead. Soon the music played. The beat seemed familiar, slow at first, then gradually speeding up. All men looked at the center of the room where there were 3 large boxes. They opened one by one, and out came 3 women in skimpy clothes, curly hair, red lips, and thick eyelashes. Everyone shouted, "Wow, this is great! Party time!" They all drank, shouted, danced. Some stood and danced with the women. Alexander sighed and shook his head. But he didn't remove himself, just staring, holding a glass of whiskey, cold eyes as if out of place, until one woman approached him. The woman's movements had hesitation. She sat on his lap, gently touched his chest. Her breath smelled of alcohol. Alexander observed her. There was something different about this woman. She wasn't like the others dancing. Though dressed, her movements showed she was a beginner. The breathing, the gaze, and the approach with hesitation. The woman brought her lips close, kissed him, not skilled in kissing, heart pounding, hands shaking. Instead of refusing, Alexander kissed her back deeper, more controlled, as if teaching her. And amid the laughter of his friends around, shouts like, "Bro's enjoying his stag party," they all laughed. Alexander stood, carried the woman like a doll. His lips tasted of alcohol. He was drunk, too. He didn't care anymore. He opened the door to one of the rooms, laid the woman on the bed, observed the woman in front of him, her messy hair, her eyes closed but slightly shaking. He slowly kissed her again while his hand gently moved down to the woman's shoulder. Outside, the music continued, the laughter, the dancing. But inside that room, 2 beings didn't know yet if this moment would be the start of forgetting or a change no one could stop. It was Alexander's wedding day, a date long prepared, spent on, and pushed by 2 powerful families. From the church gate alone, the grand celebration was felt. Expensive cars lined up, white limos with flower decorations on the sides, and personal security in black like presidential bodyguards. The church itself, an antique structure in the Hamptons, draped with white fabric hanging on the pillars, while the ceiling was full of hanging flowers lit by chandeliers as if in the middle of the day. On the side, media waited, cameras ready for live coverage from lifestyle shows and fashion pages. Wedding of the century, according to headlines. Guests were arriving: politicians, businessmen, celebrities, and known personalities in society, all wearing designer clothes, gowns like from Paris catwalks, suits from Italy, and jewelry sparkling even in daylight. But amid the history and excitement of all, there was one not in sync with the celebration's rhythm. Alexander himself, seated in the groom's suite, leaning on the sofa, holding a glass with whiskey, even though it was only 10 o'clock in the morning. His eyes were red, swollen around the lids, obviously not recovered from last night's hangover. Alexander, fix your appearance, scolded his cousin, who was also the groomsman. There are media outside. Your eye bags are visible. Look happy on your wedding day. He didn't move. Instead, he took another sip. His eyebrows furrowed, and a deep sigh enveloped the whole room. "Just let me be," he whispered. "It's not like I want this." As the ceremony time approached, the interior was quickly arranged in order. The live band was playing with the opening of the large church doors. Everyone waited for the bride. But minutes passed, still no Victoria, until a PA entered the altar, panting and almost dropping the headset she held. "Sir, ma'am, Madam Victoria is missing." "What?" Simultaneous gasp from both families. Chaos ensued. Organizers ran. Media outside sensed something odd. Some started asking why the bride's march was delayed. "Find her. Check all the rooms. Maybe she just had a panic attack," ordered one of Victoria's aunts. Alexander's father approached him. "What are you doing?" "Find your bride," angry whisper. But Alexander just shrugged. He looked at his father, cold eyes. "I don't care," he answered. "I don't give a damn." The next day, headlines spread in all newspapers, TV, and social media. Runaway bride Victoria Hayes left before the wedding. Went with ex-model boyfriend to Paris. A photo of Victoria with a man at the airport served as proof. According to news, Victoria wasn't really ready to pin herself to the role of a domesticated wife. She still wanted to continue her modeling career and didn't want to be trapped in a loveless marriage. Big scandal, big embarrassment. Inside the Vanderbilt building, Alexander was called to the boardroom. There were his father, some company directors, and their family lawyer. "You show interest in marrying and giving us an heir," stern statement from his father, "or else we'll remove you from the company. You are a disgrace to this family." He had nothing to say, no emotion, just sitting while being yelled at by the people who shaped his personality, but now also destroyed it. Upon arriving at his penthouse, he quietly opened the door. No other sound but the drip of cold water from the bar. He grabbed the bottle of liquor, opened it, and drank without a glass, as if the warmth of the liquor wasn't enough to cover the cold in his chest, until he suddenly shouted an angry shout, as if wanting to break the chain of every expectation on him. He threw the bottle at the wall, followed by punches, continuous, his breathing echoing while blood dripped from his fist. "I'm not enough. I was never enough for them." He sat on the floor. Here entered his mind the memory of the past night, the woman he was with in the room, the one he didn't know, the one he didn't expect. But since waking up that morning of the stag party, he couldn't remove from his mind her face. Meanwhile, in a cramped kitchen of their house, Emily was busy chopping vegetables. Beside her, Margaret was chopping meat. Their conversation was happy earlier, simple chat while cooking. But suddenly, when Emily smelled the raw meat, she held her mouth. She felt nauseous. She ran to the sink, leaned, and vomited. "Child," surprised question from Margaret. "What's happening to you?" Emily couldn't answer immediately. She sat on the chair, holding her stomach, fingers shaking, and there gradually entered her memory that night, the study, the lights, the music, the alcohol forced on her by Sarah, the dance, her approach to a man, suddenly waking up on a soft bed with nothing on, only covered by a thin blanket. When she turned to the side, there was a man, bare-chested, sleeping, handsome, but cold expression. She didn't know his name. She didn't know what really happened. All she knew, her head hurt, her hair messy, and she almost cried while trying to fix herself. But before leaving, she stopped. She stared at the man's face, memorized it, tried to remember. Maybe one day she needed to know who he was. Back to the present, Emily, when asked again by Margaret, "Child, are you pregnant?" She couldn't answer immediately. Instead, tears fell on her cheek 1, 2, until continuous. She didn't know the answer, but in her heart, the truth she long wanted to deny was gradually weighing, and while still holding her stomach in the silence of their simple home, there was a scream that couldn't be uttered. The night was quiet. In the small room, Emily sat on the edge of the bed, holding an old notebook where their house expenses were written. It seemed she was checking every number, every column of debt, every bill for the hospital, school, and medicine. But more than all, she carried the heaviest burden now, the life gradually forming in her womb. More than a week had passed since she learned of her pregnancy. Every day she thought about it. She didn't know if she should be happy or even more sad. She had no job now. She hadn't returned to the food court since Margaret's condition became critical. There were moments she almost wanted to give up, but every time she looked at Olivia, she knew she couldn't turn her back on the fight. "Emily," call from her mother on the pallet. "Child, aren't you really going to look for the child's father?" Emily didn't answer. She chose to observe the dim light of the flickering bulb on the ceiling. She deliberately chose not to argue, but she knew her mother's heart was heavy. "Child, we had many dreams for you," continued Margaret, weary tone. "I thought you wouldn't experience what happened to me back then, left by the man, left alone, fought for the children. I don't want that repeated on you." Emily bit her lip. She didn't want to contradict her mother. She didn't want to hear more of the pain she hid for long. But she had no more answer. In every quiet night, fear whispered there. How would she raise a child, a baby without even a father to be with, until one day Margaret suddenly collapsed on the floor while walking to the bathroom. Emily and Olivia panicked. Emily ran to the street, knocked on the neighbor, asked for help. Margaret was taken to the nearest hospital using a taxi. The vehicle almost flew from speeding. "Ma'am, the patient's body is weak. She needs surgery," said the doctor after the examinations. Emily despaired. It felt like her world crumbled with those words. She looked at Olivia, who was also sobbing. "Sis, what will we do?" Olivia's voice shaking. "We have no more money to pay." Emily was surprised to feel she was crying, too. The tears she tried to hold back in recent days finally flowed. The weight on her chest seemed no longer hidden by the bravery she wore every day. "She's pregnant. Her mom is sick, in the hospital, and Olivia has school bills. All problems drowning her at once." That night, outside the hospital, she sat on a wooden bench while watching passers-by. She took out her old cell phone, and there was one contact she'd been looking at for days, but she tried to avoid Sarah. When she pressed it and heard the other line, she was almost deafened by the music and laughter in the background. "Emily?" asked Sarah. "Why, girl?" "Sarah," soft reply from Emily. "I need help." Brief silence on the other line, as if the background music volume lowered. "Girl, I really have no big help to give. You know, I'm sending to the countryside, too. We're also in debt, and I haven't paid the photographer who shot me last week. I wanted a vacation, but whatever. Sarah, even anything, even a little, for hospital expenses, to buy mom's medicine. I really don't know what to do." There was a sound of a zipper on the other line, as if Sarah took her wallet. "Okay, I have 5 here. I'll send tomorrow. But that's it. I have nothing else. Thanks." "Really, Sarah?" "Girl, wait. If you're really tight, why don't you look for the baby's father? Didn't you say you were a virgin then? So, for sure, the man at the stag party is the father." Emily's gaze froze on the dark road. "I don't even know his name. I just remember his face." "Huh? Wait, we have pictures of that party, right? Let's look. Let's look for the guys there. Wait." Soon Sarah started sending photos on chat, one by one. Sarah searched the men. "Is this him?" asked Sarah while sending a picture of a tattooed man. Emily denied. "Or this? A tall Asian guy." "No." Again. Until Sarah showed a photo of a man, fair, sharp nose, serious gaze in a black suit in a photo op holding whiskey. Emily stopped. Her breathing slowed, as if all memories returned to her. "Him? It's him," Emily's response. "Girl," chatted Sarah. "That's Alexander Vanderbilt." "Alexander Vanderbilt," repeated Emily. "Yes, he's a billionaire. The groom of the wedding that fell through last week. Runaway bride Victoria. Didn't you hear? It was trending on all sites." Emily quickly searched the name. There she saw dozens of articles about the cancelled wedding, about the wealth of the Vanderbilt family, and the mysterious, cold personality of Alexander. While reading the reports, her heartbeat gradually quickened. She stared at the photos of Alexander. She wasn't mistaken. He was the father of the child in her womb. But even so, she still didn't know if she should approach the man. What if he pushes her away? What if he says she's just after money? What if he doesn't believe her? But before she could process everything, someone gently touched her shoulder. It was Olivia, eyes swollen, carrying the medicine prescription. "Sis, how about Mom?" She approached her sibling, hugged, and held the nape. "Don't worry," whispered Emily. "Sis will find a way." And in the middle of that night's silence, while hugging her sibling, Emily knew she needed to act. The life of her child, her mother, her sibling depended on the courage she needed to build in her heart. The sun was hot at noon when Emily reached the front of the vast and very tall building of Vanderbilt International Holdings. It was a building made of blue glass and steel, as if splitting the sky and earth. Outside, expensive cars passed one after another. The guards stood at their posts, alert and serious, watching. Emily went straight to the entrance but was immediately blocked by the guard. "Miss, where's your appointment?" asked one, while looking her up and down. Emily was in shoes, but obviously outdated, her blouse not the look of someone who usually enters the office of one of the largest and most influential businesses in the country. "I just want to talk to Alexander Vanderbilt," she said firmly. The guard laughed and glanced at the other. "Miss, if you have no appointment, you can't enter. You don't have ID either." "It's really important," she pleaded. "Just tell him someone's waiting for him. Emily's the name. He'll say he knows me." The guards didn't budge. She was repeatedly denied. She stood there for almost half an hour. She watched employees, executives, and some foreign investors enter, each one with ID, formal attire, and seemed to have a purpose for that day. She was in the middle of thinking if she should leave when suddenly the glass doors opened. A familiar face came out, tall, fair, in a black suit, and with two bodyguards. Emily's world stopped at Alexander. She moved immediately. "Alexander," she shouted. The young man turned, obviously surprised. "Alexander!" Emily shouted again, but was immediately blocked by security. "Miss, not allowed here." "Wait, I need to talk to him." Alexander looked at Emily, head tilted, as if checking if his memory was right. And when he fully recognized Emily's face, he raised his hand as a signal to his staff. "Bring her to the parking lot," ordered Alexander. In a corner of the underground parking, Alexander and Emily were walking. No other sound but the click of their steps and the soft hum of the building's air